Welcome to the Jeremy Mullins podcast, where we take a deep dive into different educational topics to help you optimize your life. I'm here today with Mr. Montae, my partner in crime and coach inside of the First Form app.
Back for another one.
Back for another one. We just wrapped up another challenge.
Yeah, we did. Had a lot of good results in this challenge too.
Lots of good results. It's I don't know, frustration wrapped in like gratitude at the end of a challenge, right? Because I want to see and I expect to see results in every single person. And I don't know why I say this after 20 years of coaching, like uh, saying I expect it, because it comes down to, unfortunately, 30 to 40% of people who start wellness journeys will have success on that first try, right? And we know a lot of people come back a second, third time and end up having success, but it's just frustrating to see some of the obstacles, what people perceive as obstacles that they're not overcoming.
Yeah, yeah, because there's a lot of people who go through a lot of real obstacles that still execute on the plan. So
Yep.
I'm the same way. I get frustrated. I'm like, and I think it's just that we know what they're capable of doing if they just go through it head on and just take on those obstacles. We know it's possible. I think that's where the frustration comes in.
Yeah, and you only fail if you give up, right? That's what I always tell people. Like, it may take you multiple times at this journey, but a lot of times it is getting out of your own way and really adopting, fitness and nutrition as a lifestyle. And there were some stats I was seeing the other day, and it's different groups have these stats that are out there. So, I'm kind of just summarizing and not quoting a particular study or a particular set of stats, but it was showing that after 3 years of someone starting a diet, that 95% of the people end up gaining their weight back. And with most of those individuals, they gain more of their weight back than they initially lost. And it really got me thinking about we want people to focus in on habits more than just doing a program. And I will say that we're seeing this trend a little bit more as we're setting up the app into, having people break it down. Yes, there's 4 challenges a year, but we break it into 4 quarters in a year, which is pretty straightforward, right? Hey, there's 4 quarters in a year. We're going to wrap our education, kind of start our education at the beginning of a quarter, wrap it up towards the end, restart the cycle as we have new people coming in. But I am seeing, a lot more people have a little bit of success or just not gain weight maybe, and then come back the next quarter and have really good success. So that is one change that I've seen I'm really excited about and positive about is seeing people struggle, give in to some of those obstacles, right? But not give up. And then we likely, like I said, see them have really good success in the next quarter.
Yeah, agree. It's like the seasons of life that we talk about. So we can, like you said, we see them come in, they crush it for 8 weeks and kind of just, like you said, maintain in that downtime and give themselves kind of like what I would say, like a little break, and then come back and get after it. So it's like they get after it, calm down just a little bit, and then go after it again. And we see that lifestyle side of things. It's like they don't have that fall off to where they go way far backwards. They maintain and then come back in, and then that progress is just amazing when you see it over, a year's time.
Yeah. And we take a look at it, and yes, we are really, I don't want to say we're focused on, but the primary focus of us, and even for me, if I said, okay, what is the highest percentage of individuals I'm working with, it is fat loss clients. People come to us to lose body weight, right? 100%. But the question I always want to bring up, and what I want people to understand, is you have to really adopt the lifestyle for long-term success. And this is where, I would say you are being selfish if you don't adopt this lifestyle, right? If you look at, you as a human being and you as the positive benefits that come out of doing exercise and being healthy, right? Because the stats are out there. And as I read, this one study after study has found that regular exercisers live a much longer, usually a decade or more life than people who do not exercise, right? So if you think about that, when I say you're being selfish, if you die early and leave your family early, right? If you have diseases that is costing money to yourself and to taxpayers and all that, like, it is our responsibility to be healthy. And that's what I want people to really think about at the end of the day. Yes, you may start out with a specific goal of I want to lose 30 pounds of body weight, but there is plenty and plenty of data out there that is showing us those individuals who exercise. Okay, we'll get into different types of exercise. We really break it into like the two scores, or I'm sorry, the data that we see, VO2 max and strength, that those are indicators of someone living a longer, healthier life.
You put the quality of it on there too. So a longer life, but those longer years have a lot more quality to them as well.
100%, right? And that's what we're trying to do. Okay. So I want, you as a listener to understand that, it's not about short term, what can we get to in 8, 12 weeks. It's about developing the habits and adopting the lifestyle that is going to help you live, as Monte mentioned, a higher quality of life longer. Right. And that's what we all should want, right? We should want to be healthy. We don't want to be a burden on, our family members, on society. We want to take control of our health and of our life. So, the two things we were looking at, I mentioned earlier, was VO2 max. So there's a bunch of data out there that's showing that, the higher VO2 max is as you age, the longer, healthier, better quality of life you have. Okay. And the cool thing about that was it wasn't like a super high VO2 max. So we're not saying that you need to go out and get it measured, and have this number. It's the fact that it's maintaining and not dropping way off in life. Right. So what we're seeing is those who do regular cardiovascular activity and maintain that cardiovascular activity as they age live higher quality of lives. Now I'm going to do a separate podcast on that because we want to focus on the other aspect of it, which was those individuals who have more muscle tissue and more strength with the muscle tissue. I want to point that out, right? So it was kind of a combination, that it is strength plus muscle tissue also live longer, healthier, and better quality of life as they age. Okay. And I think that's important for us because we harp on resistance training being very important inside of a fat loss program. And here it is being important for us to maintain not only during a fat loss program, but maintain for life. Now you got a lot of people asking you, what is the best way to gain muscle tissue? Okay. So, and I know when we look at this, there's not a magic to it, right? We would say, hey, you want to make sure that you are, if we took after one subculture that was really good at building muscle tissue, would be our bodybuilding group. However, we can put on muscle tissue if we have light weights at home, right? You don't have to have, a full gym to put on muscle tissue. So what are some of the things that you've seen with the clients that you're working with that are key takeaways to putting on muscle tissue and gaining that strength along their journey?
Key takeaways, and I'm gonna go to a group of people, the people who can't make it to the gym because you just mentioned that, and it's the people who are working out at home, but maybe don't have, full sets of dumbbells, barbells, and access to those things at home. And when they're asking these questions, like, hey, like, can I build muscle doing this, with body weight, with 5 pound, 10 pound, dumbbells? And the answer is yes. And it's really going to come down to how much they're working the muscle tissue and the stimulus they're putting on it. Because when it comes to building muscle tissue, I mean, there has been plenty of things that show that it's not really about the weight. It's about how hard you're working that muscle tissue. Are you working it closer to failure? So say you only have 10 pound dumbbells. Me, if I have 10 pound dumbbells, if the reps call for 12 to 15, I can do that pretty easy. But what do I do in order to increase that to help me with the muscle growth? Well, I'm going to do as many reps as it takes till, I feel that, until I feel that burn, until that exertion on the muscle is there. Like when I feel it working, when I feel it burning, okay, now I'm working, I can still produce muscle growth even with lighter dumbbells. So that's a big thing. And I mean, you even have the band kits. People, you can do it with band kits. And while I tell people, like, you eventually want to get up to where you're going, able to, order heavier dumbbells to push yourself. You're not having to do 100 reps of dumbbell curls. Like you can get it done with that.
And a lot of times, the key takeaway here is any resistance training. And if you're pushing yourself, so we're talking about is having, you can do it by RPE, right? So a scale of 1 to 10, one, or, one being super easy, versus a 10 being, this is very difficult. I'm going to fail. This hurts, right? So that's kind of like when we talk about when it comes to 0 to 10 scale. So we're talking about pushing yourself on that resistance training where you mentioned feeling the burn, right? Feeling failure come like, I mean, I can't lift another one of these without, hitting failure or, sacrificing form. And that can be done in any fashion of resistance training. So the key is to have resistance training. You want to gain muscle tissue, you want to gain strength so that you have that quality of life for longer, then do resistance training on a regular basis, right? Now, if you're coming into it, yes, you want to put on muscle tissue, definitely want to work up to where you're lifting heavy weights, once again, in that 12 to 15 range, right? So that is where you would want to go to, but it doesn't mean, right? Because we see this all the time. People are like, well, Jeremy, I don't have that amount of weight at home, so I might as well not even do anything. And I'm like, no, 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 no. As you mentioned, you just might have to do a lot more reps to stimulate that response of that fatigue, that muscle breakdown in order to build the muscle tissue back up. Now, a couple things I want to read here. I got notes down on. So, a 10-year observation study looked at roughly 4,500 subjects age 50 and older. And they found that those with low muscle mass were 40 to 50% greater risk of mortality than the controls. All right. So, think about that. Low muscle tissue, you're at a 50% chance to dying early than having more muscle tissue. Further analysis revealed that it's not only the pure muscle mass that matters, but also the strength of those muscles and the ability to generate force, right? So, yes, muscles are cool, they look good, all that stuff, but it's also the ability of the individual that's coming out of that, right? We look at a lot of injuries that happen in older clientele and older individuals. It's done by just doing normal household or daily activities, right? So there's an accident, and a lot of that is based on balance and stuff like that. But I would argue balance goes away a lot because strength and mobility goes away. And if you're functional, and I'm sorry, you're doing these daily functions, these daily activities on a daily basis with resistance training, you're going to maintain that strength. You're going to maintain the ability to maintain your balance and that mobility that comes along with it. Last part of my notes: subjects with low muscle strength were at a double the risk of death, while with low muscle mass or low muscle strength plus metabolic syndrome had a 3 to 3.5 times greater risk of cause of mortality. Okay, so they're talking to, and we see with diabetes rates, pre-diabetes rates going up. Resistance training also has a great benefit to help with reverse the metabolic syndrome. So preventing us from becoming insulin resistant. Because remember, when you don't use the muscle cells, the muscles or the body has no reason to store carbohydrate inside the muscle cells. Because why? We're not using it. So there is that big benefit of resistance training helping us in stave off metabolic conditioning that we see a lot of times in those that who do not do resistance training. And then unfortunately, inside of a standard American diet, are consuming a lot more of processed carbs and total carbohydrate. And that's just a double whammy. It's going to lead to insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, et cetera. So another benefit of having that resistance training inside of your schedule. What style of training do you like best?
I personally like traditional style training,
Yep. And what do you mean
but
by traditional? If we have someone brand new listening, what do you mean by the traditional style?
so your typical, I do push pull leg kind of movements. So it's
Yep.
not like the CrossFit. I'm not throwing around slinging and banging weights. And I'm not running, but just going in, doing your traditional bench, deadlift, shoulder presses, like as main movements, and then doing accessory work with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm the opposite. I'm a fan of the functional fitness, but starting it with a strength biased. So going in and doing bench press, right? But then maybe the workout includes, push ups, pull ups, some gymnastic work, maybe a little bit of conditioning by running, and more weights, right? So that's a fan of how I like to train. Everyone is different. Okay.
It's gonna come down to what you like to do the best.
What you like to do the best. They both have resistance training in it. My lifting before the metabolic conditioning or the CrossFit WOD, whatever you want to call it, is heavy, right? It is going to be a certain percentage based on my 1 rep max, no different than like you were talking about with the traditional program. With the traditional program, you're going to have more accessory work to go along with it. Now, a lot of people, do a lot of accessory work after their CrossFit workouts. Just depends on what time you have, right? So there is no right or wrong, I think, coming into what style of training. Just want to let people know, like personally, what we do, from that aspect. So takeaway: more muscle tissue, more strength leads to a longer, healthier, and more increased quality of life. Now I'm going to back this up a little bit. Ask you, what are some goals that you have coming up in the new year that are strength or lifting related?
Well, the number one goal that I have, and it's been a goal for years, and I got it once, and I've shared my journey on here. So that for the people who know, like I backtracked and weight, but it's to get 10 unassisted pull-ups. Like being 6'8", long arms, a lot of room to travel. I got to where I could do like 5 at one point,
Yeah,
but then lost that. So 2025, I'm getting at least 10 unassisted pull-ups in a row.
I like it. That's a good goal to have. I think everyone should be able to do a pull up. If you look at just quality of life, pull yourself up, it is a big deal. And that can be a basis that you set your goal of and strength goal is to be able to do that pull up. So I'm going to chase 405 on the bench, tie an all time PR in my mid 40s. So I think that's going to be one of my goals that I want to put out there from a strength, basis. And then I haven't had time to sit down and look at some others. I want to do some others when it comes to squat and deadlift. Deadlift will not be too aggressive, secondary to the past injury. But I do want to make some squat goals, which are going to be more, I think, strength slash endurance related. So maybe some 10 rep, 20 rep on the back squat this year as some strength goals. So that's what I'm kind of looking at from that aspect. So wrap it up, guys. Remember, resistance training is very important for not only fat loss, aesthetics, to achieve your goal within a 8-week challenge, but also for long-term health. Looking at the data, looking at the research that's out there, it's showing that resistance training, whether that be with weights, bands, body weight, is one of the best ways to live that longer, healthier, higher quality life. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving and that everyone enjoys their time in the holidays. And we'll talk to you guys soon.